Everyone, welcome to Module 2, where we start to take a look at English as a global language. This model, these three circles, will be quite important in this unit of work. This model was developed by Katchru in 1995 to describe how English is used all over the world. The centre, the inner circle, with countries like Australia, outer circle, Singapore and India, countries like that, and expanding circle, all the other countries that use English. So the inner circle is describing native speakers of English, or English as first language speakers. Outer circle, these countries are ex-colonies usually of Britain, where English still plays an important role in governments and bureaucracies. And the expanding circle, where English is taught in schools or in language schools, and it's not really used in the government in a big way, and it's more likely to be used in communication between people and international business reasons. Philipson, in 1992, a very important person in this area, developed an alternate model to Katchru's three circles. He developed a model with only two circles, the core countries being where English is spoken as a first language or native language, and then the periphery is all the other languages, all the other countries, So in Philipson's model there's more of a power dimension, because he suggests that in the core countries, the people who speak English there try to exert power over how English is spoken in all of the periphery countries, and we'll be reading about that shortly in an article by Philipson today. There have been lots of reasons suggested for the spread of English globally in the 21st century especially. There are two types of factors that have been identified, structural and ideological. So structural factors don't necessarily have much to do with English. They're not English didn't cause this. Globalization, that's an international business phenomenon which has been closely associated with the rise of the internet, and those are structural factors that have influenced the spread of English, because English tends to be the language of globalization and also the language of the internet. There are structural factors. The other side is where governments and institutions have put in place policies that have caused the spread of English and certain varieties of English, and we'll be talking about ideology in following modules as well. So ideologies being beliefs, philosophical positions of various groups of people, and we'll be learning all about that. So it's complicated but interesting. There are many varieties of English used in the world, and we'll be using the term varieties to talk about these four aspects of types of English: dialects, creoles, pidgins and lingua franca. I've put these definitions into the glossary in the section that says unit information on Leo. So please add, if you find any other definitions that you had to look up, please pop them in the glossary so that we can all build our understanding together. So you can see there's some definitions. The dialects are particular forms of language used by a region or in an area or group. Creoles are a particular type of dialect, I suppose, that are used often in certain places, like in South of America or in the Caribbean, from the contact of a European language with an indigenous language, a local language. Pidgin is a grammatically simplified form of English, often used in colonies. For example, where I was born, Papua New Guinea, there is a form of Pidgin that is very common up there. And lingua franca, that is a language used by, say, three groups of people who don't speak that language. Sorry, let me explain. Try again. If three different people speak three different languages, they might use a fourth language of which none of them is a native speaker to communicate. So if I speak Japanese, someone else speaks Vietnamese, someone else speaks French. We might all use English to communicate, even though none of us has English as a first language. These ideas have really big implications for us as teachers. What version of English should we be teaching? Should we use a native speaker model, a standard version of English? Or should we be looking at the varieties of English that multilingual successful communicators use as our models? And in whose interests are either of these varieties of English? You'll be asked to take a position on this in the debate later in this unit. Should all language teachers be multilingual? Should they be native speakers of the language they're teaching? And where does this leave me when I first started teaching English in Australia? Before I started learning Japanese, I was monolingual and only teaching my native language. Is that okay? I'd like to know your views. We're going to be contributing to the debate, and let's see what everyone thinks. Now, let's deal with how to read a journal article. There are a lot of readings in this course, and I want to just give you some tips on how you can manage the workload by being a strategic reader. I don't expect you to read every single word of every single article or chapter. You've got to do it depending on what your purpose is. So the first thing is, why are you reading? So here's the article I asked you to download. English as an International Language, Challenges and Possibilities. The purpose of reading this is as an overview for the unit, and so that you can use quotes from this article in your assignment too. So that's your purpose for reading, to give an overview of the key concepts. This is a review article, a position paper written by Phillipson and another esteemed scholar in the area, Mr. Sharifian, and they are very important scholars in this area, and so we want to know what they have to say about all of the key issues around English as a global language. So the first thing we do is skim the entire article to see how long it is and if we can notice anything in particular. So let's do it. Okay, so that's 1 page, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pages plus references. Not too bad, not too long. The pages aren't terribly packed. They're quite sort of compact pages, so that's doable. And I notice that there are lots of large headings there. Grab a highlighter now and highlight all the headings and read them as you do so. Introduction, what makes English an international language, 3 circles. We know about the 3 circles because I've just explained them to you, Kapshu's model. Issues of norms. Okay, so some questions about what's the norm, what are the rules. That's quite a long section. The position of English, response to globalisation. Aha! So that suggests to me that the authors are going to be talking about some critical issues about the role of English as a response to globalisation, and that's probably where the interesting bits are at the end. The earlier bits are going to be like a literature review of the area, which will be helpful for us when we're learning about all of these issues. Next, read the abstract in detail and then the conclusion if you want to. That'll help you understand what's going to come and then what ideas are going to be in here, and if you need to read it, and how important it is. This abstract starts with saying that there's been a big rise in use of English across the world. We already know that. Second sentence says that most people now who speak English, there's been a big rise in people who are not native speakers of English. And this is becoming even more prevalent. That's the third sentence, telling us this trend's increasing. Then we've got the nature of English in the context of globalisation. There are some issues around that, and it's calling for a reassessment of many ideas. So that's what this article is going to be about for us. Particularly debate between the old distinction between native and non-native speakers and which groups are empowered and disadvantaged. That's going to be the content of this paper, and it's really closely related to our unit. This is a position paper, so it's going to also give some opinions, and that was probably in the last section. Now you're ready to read in detail. Be an active reader, highlight, scribble, circle things, use this article as the basis for ideas you can come back to and for quotes for your assignment. Okay, don't forget, check your ACU emails, check the announcements, check your deadlines, and enjoy the module. Bye for now.